The seventh chapter in the Scream franchise has become one of the most talked about upcoming horror projects, because of how much has changed around it in a short amount of time. After the success of the last two films, expectations grew fast, but so did behind-the-scenes shifts that reshaped the direction of the story. Scream 7 is positioned as a reset and a continuation at the same time, aiming to keep the franchise's self-aware tone while responding to audience reactions, cost changes, and creative decisions that made headlines. The movie is being framed as a course correction that leans heavily into the core identity of Scream: mystery, legacy, and commentary on horror itself. At its core, Scream 7 is expected to return the spotlight to the roots of the franchise while still acknowledging the newer era. The filmmakers are said to be focusing on a tighter narrative that feels more grounded compared to the broader ensemble approach of recent entries. Instead of trying to juggle too many story threads, this installment is expected to emphasize suspense, character psychology, and the emotional weight of survival in a world where Ghostface keeps coming back. The goal appears to be making the film feel intense and personal rather than just bigger or louder. One of the biggest points of discussion around Scream 7 has been the cast. The franchise has always balanced legacy characters with new faces, and this film is no exception, though the balance has shifted again. Longtime fans are especially focused on the return of familiar characters who define the series' history. Courtney Cox's Gale Weathers is widely expected to play a significant role, continuing her journey as a survivor who has seen every version of Ghostface. Her presence helps anchor the film emotionally and thematically, reminding audiences of how far the story has come since the original Woodsboro murders. Another major talking point is the return of Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott. After her absence from the previous film, her comeback has been treated as a major event for the franchise. Sidney's character represents the heart of Scream, and her involvement signals a shift back toward the original survivor's perspective. Rather than simply revisiting nostalgia, the story is expected to explore how Sidney's life has evolved, how trauma still follows her, and why Ghostface continues to be tied to her existence even years later. Her role is expected to be meaningful, not just symbolic. The status of the newer generation of characters has also been heavily discussed. The recent films introduced a new core group that resonated with audiences, but changes behind the scenes affected which characters could realistically continue. As a result, Scream 7 is expected to refocus the narrative, potentially reducing the emphasis on the previous ensemble while introducing new characters who can carry future installments. This shift allows the movie to explore fresh dynamics while still respecting what came before. As with every Scream movie, Ghostface is once again at the center of the story. What sets this installment apart is the expectation that the killer's motive will feel more personal and less gimmicky. There has been ongoing discussion about returning to motives rooted in obsession, revenge, and identity rather than shock twists for their own sake. The mask, the voice, and the rules of survival are all expected to remain. But the film aims to make the mystery feel unpredictable again, even for longtime fans who think they know how these stories usually play out. The plot is being kept tightly under wraps, but the general direction suggests a return to familiar territory with new consequences. The story is expected to revolve around the idea that the Ghostface legacy cannot be escaped, no matter how many times the cycle seems to end. Characters who believe they are finally safe are forced to confront the reality that the past keeps resurfacing. The film is also expected to play with the idea of final chapters in horror franchises, questioning whether an ending is ever truly possible. Themes of legacy and survival are expected to run throughout the movie. Scream 7 is likely to examine what it means to outlive a horror story that refuses to stay finished. For veteran characters, survival has come with long-term emotional costs. For newer characters, the film is expected to show how quickly normal life can be shattered by the return of Ghostface. This contrast allows the story to explore generational trauma in a way that feels relevant without losing the sharp, self-aware humor the franchise is known for. Another important aspect of the film is its tone. Reports and discussions suggest that Scream 7 will lean slightly darker than recent entries, focusing more on tension and dread while still maintaining moments of dark humor. The balance between scares and satire has always defined Scream, and this installment is expected to recalibrate that balance. Instead of constantly commenting on modern horror trends, the film may use its meta-elements more selectively, letting the suspense breathe. Behind the camera, the creative team has also been a subject of interest. The franchise has gone through shifts in direction, and Scream 7 is expected to reflect a clearer creative vision. The filmmakers are reportedly focused on honoring Wes Craven's legacy by emphasizing storytelling and character over spectacle. This approach is meant to reassure fans that the franchise understands what made the original films memorable in the first place. When it comes to the release timeline, Scream 7 has faced adjustments that fueled speculation and discussion. While an exact date has been anticipated, the focus has been on getting the film right rather than rushing it out. The studio appears committed to ensuring that the script, cast, and production align with fan expectations. This careful approach suggests confidence in the long-term value of the franchise rather than treating the film as just another sequel. Trailer information has been kept minimal, adding to the mystery surrounding the project. Rather than revealing major plot points early, the marketing strategy is expected to rely on atmosphere and intrigue. Fans are anticipating teaser footage that focuses on mood, familiar imagery, and the chilling presence of Ghostface rather than giving away key story elements. This restraint is seen as a positive sign, especially for a franchise built on surprises. The conversation around Scream 7 has also included how it fits into the larger future of the series. While it functions as a continuation, it is also being discussed as a potential turning point. Depending on audience reception, the film could either close a major chapter or open the door to a new era with different characters and settings. This uncertainty adds an extra layer of tension to the project, both within the story and outside of it. Fan expectations are high, especially after the mixed reactions to recent changes. Scream 7 carries the weight of proving that the franchise can evolve without losing its identity. By bringing back key legacy elements while refining its approach to storytelling, the film aims to remind audiences why Scream has remained relevant for decades. The blend of mystery, commentary, and character-driven horror is what the series does best, and this installment is expected to double down on that formula. Another key point of interest is how the film handles violence and suspense. Rather than focusing solely on body count, Scream 7 is expected to emphasize the fear of not knowing who to trust. This psychological tension has always been a strength of the franchise, and returning to it could help the film stand out in a crowded horror landscape. The kills, while impactful, are expected to serve the story rather than overshadow it. The setting of the film is also part of the ongoing discussion. While specific locations are being kept secret, there is strong interest in whether the story returns to familiar places tied to the franchise's history or explores new environments that challenge the characters in different ways. The choice of setting plays a huge role in shaping the tone and pacing, and fans are eager to see how it's used this time. As anticipation builds, Scream 7 continues to generate conversation, not just because it's another sequel, but because it represents a moment of reflection for the franchise. It asks what Scream means in the current horror landscape and how it can continue to surprise audiences who know the rules. By focusing on character, legacy, and tension, the film aims to prove that Ghostface still has something to say. In the end, Scream 7 is shaping up to be a defining entry that balances respect for the past with a careful step toward the future. With the return of key characters, a renewed focus on suspense, and a deliberate approach to storytelling, the film is positioned to make a strong impact. Whether it serves as a closing chapter or a new beginning, it carries the responsibility of reminding audiences why answering the phone in a Scream movie is never a good idea.